Hey, everybody. I'm Cory Thorell, and welcome to Fear to Freedom, One Story at a Time. What if the very beliefs that once held you back are the keys to unlocking your true potential, waiting to be released, so you can finally create the life that you were always meant to live? What if, by simply listening, you are taking the first step towards releasing the fears that have held you back so you can embrace the freedom that you've always wanted, and it's always been within your reach? Each story here is a reminder that your breakthrough is not just possible, it's inevitable. So, what if the very thoughts you've been holding on to are now ready to transmute so you can finally create the life that you've always desired? I believe that real freedom begins the moment that you realize that the beliefs you're holding back are no longer serving you. Through my own journey, I have learned that once we understand fear, uncertainty, and doubt, we unlock the power to choose our new reality and to live a life that we love. So I'm here to make the rest of life the best of life. And today I am so honored to have my dear friend Christina Lynn with me. Christina, get in here.
Hello.
Introduce yourself. How are you, my friend?
I am well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Christina Lynn, and I am a coach. I do health coaching through a program that teaches people how to regain their personal inner strength and power to get their health in order. We teach education, one-on-one coaching, community, and nutrition. But I'm also a full-time professor of medical imaging, having 18 years of experience, Army veteran, these are my degrees and licenses on the wall that pertain to that part of my life. I
Mhm.
also have a PhD in religious studies, and I'm a high priestess in a group, and have done celebrations of life, led groups, and I get to do a couple of weddings next year, so I'm very excited.
Oh my goodness, Christina, oh my gosh, we have even more in common than I knew from before.
Right, right.
Every time I talk to you, I learn a whole bunch more about you. How cool is that?
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we both, are, especially the spiritual side of our education. I love that we live in an amazing time, you
Yes, we
know,
do.
in the information age when, we all have the oracle in our pocket.
Right.
Yeah. Hold on, let me consult the oracle. You know,
Make it a goon, as my daughter would say.
where we can ask a question and then we can find a pathway to an answer, or
Exactly.
however we get the answer. But part
Right.
of that magic that I'm calling in this conversation right now is that part of the magic of being alive in the information age is that science and research and degrees and intellect and education and that whole philosophy of weighing of being, which is hundreds of years old, loaded with respect, stops where spirituality, a whole nother philosophy of school of thought and practice and diligence and discipline that goes back hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, also a path of intellect and thinking and respect. But rarely have they.
Exactly. They're very rare. They're starting to in some cases, but it's still pretty
Right.
rare.
I think like Einstein's E equal MC squared was like, okay, the world's realizing that science and spirituality are beginning to prove each other as true.
Exactly. And quantum physics all comes together because the
Yeah.
quantum physics is what we are physically and energetically.
Right.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
think that's why all of a sudden the
Right.
oracle becomes available to us, is we can say, oh my, I can have an idea and I don't even know where it came from. I might know where it came from,
Right.
but
Right.
I can trust my imagination, my creativity, my intuition
Exactly.
flowed into a world that I didn't even know existed 5 minutes ago.
Yes. Yes.
That one tiny course correction changes your entire reality. Like if
Exactly.
you're in England and you jump on an airplane and you're aim for New York City and a tiny course correction happens there, you're going to end up in Antarctica.
Exactly. Oh, yes, just a little bit. 1 degree off takes you a
Yeah.
whole different
Mhm.
trajectory.
Right.
Yeah.
So in our last couple of conversations, we were wondering about what we would talk about on a podcast, and we were getting to know each other. And one of the things that was clear to me, Christina, is your passion for knowledge and learning,
Absolutely.
growth,
Absolutely.
and finding your place in this world.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and And I have that same curiosity. Like I'm always learning something new. I'm always taking the next class. I'm always hiring another coach to take me where I can't see,
Yes.
help me
Yeah.
see my blind spots, that kind of a
Mhm.
thing.
Exactly.
Being brave enough to be vulnerable, to take feedback. Oh
Yes.
my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh. Takes some
Oh
humility,
man.
doesn't it? Yes. It
Yeah.
doesn't let go of the ego. And my coworker always says, your ego is not your amigo. So I love that.
Right. And so I'm going to quote Lisa Nichols, the famous, speaker, teacher.
Yes.
And this is something I come to this a lot, and I've said this a lot in a lot of my recordings and in working with my clients, is there her phrase is I climbed out of my, no, I climbed out of my story
Yeah.
and I stand on top of my story and I'm
Hmm.
putting my hand out for the next one who's ready.
Yes. Yes. And you help them up. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't make them grab your hand, but the one who does.
This is what allows me to do that more than any other thing right now in my life. But I
Hmm.
was at one point down there in that pit going, how do I get out? So
Right.
I'm
Well, and when we were getting to know each other and talking about what we wanted to talk about
right.
today on this recording, a couple of things that I wanted to call in and maybe as a beginning point in this super white masculine privileged world that we're in, and here I'm a gay man in the world raised by a poor mom,
Mhm.
no money. I didn't relate
Right.
to that world either.
Right.
But your story, you told me a little bit about your story about being a woman, you know,
Yes.
and also coming from a dominant religion, and some of these parts of your story where, you and I both didn't
Right.
have the head start.
No, we did
Right from
not.
the beginning, right from the very beginning, we did not have a head start,
Mhm.
but we chose to move forward. You know,
Exactly.
and I love that phrase, when we choose life, life chooses us.
Yes, I totally agree with that because
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm proof of that. I am proof of that.
Yeah. And so like, like you obviously your credentials and your success and your passion and the people you're serving is showing up in your world now and guiding you to your next steps.
Yes. But it's certainly not where I started, right? Right.
No,
So
same.
yeah.
Same here. So let's go
So
back a little bit for our
okay.
audience, because the whole point of this podcast, Fear to Freedom,
Right.
is for us to show the world that we were there too.
We were there. So I grew up, my parents divorced when I was 5, and my mother remarried quickly in order to have somebody to help support her. She had basically no education, no way to support herself and 2 children, I being the second. And so we moved from Michigan to California. And that man stayed with us for a while, but unbeknownst to us till much, much later, he was inappropriate with my sister. And so that came to affect her health later and eventually killed her by not coming forth with that information and withholding. Because when your body is in out of ease, you create dis-ease. So I grew up in a single household mother-led household, and she was very poor. She worked on her education, so she'd go to school at night and she worked 2 jobs. And luckily, there was an uncle that would every once in a while make sure that our mortgage was paid or our electric bill was there. But we just didn't have money. We were very poor. And so I never thought I could be or do anything. I was always told, you're going to go to college, but there was no way to pay for college. I had no idea how all that worked and no mentorship and no uh, adult male role model to guide me in anything like that. So I eventually got out of high school. I did well, I'm a B student, and then immediately was like, well, how about join the army? Okay. Being a young and dumb and not really having any guidance, I joined the military, which ended up being a great experience for me because it gave me the foundation that led to that. I
Mhm.
ended up being an X-ray technician in the military, but I went reserves. I should have gone full time, looking back, hindsight, but I got that experience. While I was during my active duty training, I met some people and ended up joining this large religious organization. And in that, I don't know if you want me to say. Okay, so I
Mhm.
joined the LDS church. I became a Mormon and ended up meeting and marrying 2 people throughout that. My first husband, he and I had 5 children together. until he became not kind. And he was emotionally and verbally abusive to me and my children. And I needed to get out of that. But I had no sellable skills. I had no way to provide for myself because here I was,
Mhm.
a mom with 5 kids and nothing. But I had luckily had the opportunity through the Head Start program to um, get introduced to how to pay for college and how to go to school. And so I started taking a little class here and there and eventually got my first associate degree in early childhood education. But more importantly, the bug of learning and education bit me. And I was forever infected. I know. That was so good. But so I
Mhm.
divorced him after I got my associate degree, my first associate degree, and moved with my children to northern Idaho, where my mother was, and continued to go to school. I was working on getting excuse me, a bachelor's degree in education, and I was working at a school, and did okay, taking care of my kids, until my father got really ill. So I moved my family to Southern California to help with my father, only to find out that he was emotionally abusive and eventually called me white trash with jackass children.
My
And I
good.
was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done putting forth my effort with you. Um, and then in the meantime, I had met somebody else and married him, and we were going to have one more child together. And I was going to school, and I right before I married him, I went to a Halloween party where I was faced with opportunities of people that I knew represented the trajectories, that 1 degree of change I could make in my life, like we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier.
Like,
I
like what?
There was a teacher,
Uh-huh.
there was somebody who was doing respiratory therapy, there
Mhm.
was somebody who was an X-ray tech who is now in sales. And those were the 3 that really stood out to me, and I was like, "I could be this, I could change and be that, or I could do that."
Yeah, I'm going
Which
to pause right there. I love this. I want to call it a pause. And this is one thing that I love to do is
Yes.
because you pulled out something right here that is, I think, one of the most important pieces of a candle staying lit in the wind
Mm,
is, oh my gosh, I saw possibility.
I did. I did.
And how did it make you feel?
It was, it was freeing because I knew there were choices,
Right.
and that was really important to know there were choices, and, I could make any one of those choices, and they would all be a great opportunity for me. And this is so poignant. I can still see those people and
Mm.
hear them talking to me about what they do and realizing how they represented different aspects and possibilities in my life. And uh, it was really telling to me. It was really, I knew I was in the right place at the right time with
Mhm.
people that were going to give me that insight. So,
So the reason I wanted to pause in the story right there is because I think our highest self, spirit, God, universe, creator, whatever word we use for that, depending on who you are, where you grew up, what church, what community, what wherever you are,
yes.
is that I really like this comes back to when we choose life, life chooses us.
Mhm.
And I think really that life wants not only does life choose us, life wants us to succeed.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
all of a sudden, when we go where it's easy,
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
usually find more possibility and opportunity than anywhere where it's difficult.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. If it's difficult and you're fighting against something, it's probably life trying to say, "This might be the right path for you." No, I
Right.
can't say that's for everybody, but it certainly is for me.
Well, and
So,
it's just like, man, I remember being so frozen in my story
mhm.
that if somebody would have just said, take a minute and notice where it's easy,
Yeah.
that might have been the thing I needed to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's
And
true.
that's why I wanted to just say, there's one of the energies that I love to show
Yeah.
off in our story. That's why I thought, let's pause and claim it and
I love it. I
pull it
love
in
it.
the light. Yeah.
I love
So,
it. So I thought I can do X-ray. I really liked doing that in the military. So I'm going to choose that option. And I applied myself to do the prerequisites I needed, and then applied for the program. And I didn't get in because I lacked one type of class. And I was like, "Oh, you're not holding me back now, because that's what I want. You can't tell me no." So I took 5 of those classes, different classes. They were, sociology and stuff like that, you know? So I took 5 of those to I made sure I was in the next cohort, and I was in there, and, because I wanted to make sure I got all I could out of it, I opted for the additional mammography class,
Mm,
and I opted to run for class president, which I was. So I was like, I'm going to get as much as I can out of this. And I did. But in the middle of that, I ended up in a horrific divorce. Literally in the middle of my 24-month program, I ended up, and I don't want to say too much because it will be
mm,
too much share for other people. But
yep,
it was absolutely required. You either leave or we take your daughter from you. And I ended up losing my other 5 children to their father.
oh my
And
God.
so I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed because they were my world. Absolutely love my children with everything, and they know it. And I will be absolutely honest. There were many, many points along the next probably 8 to 10 years that it was only the thought of my children need me that kept me alive,
Mhm.
literally alive, because it would have been too easy to find a way to not be here. But I knew at some point they were going to need me. And I can say that every single one of them have come back to me and spent time with me. So they needed me, and I needed them just as much. But whew, don't want to dwell there too long, but it was absolutely painful um, and devastating. But I will say that I was absolutely grateful for the welfare program that gave me the help I needed finding a preschool for my little one while I continued my education. And um, then when I finally graduated, they did a welfare to work program, and went over how to do a resume and all those things that you need to help get you started. And they offered me, well, why don't you come work for us? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you're going to pay me about $20,000 less than I will as soon as that piece of paper comes in the mail.
Right.
So
Right.
I held off and I held off, and I ended up basically homeless because when I left my second husband and all of that happened because I had to go into hiding. I had to have a restraining order and a sheriff's protection of hiding in order to protect myself and my daughter. So my youngest, she was the one from my second marriage. So a friend said you could stay with us, but I knew at the time that it was going from the frying pot into the fire, that it was not going to be the best situation, but it was maybe a little bit better. I could control the heat or something a little bit more. And I knew it was only 1 year. It was temporary. I'd finish up what I needed to do and just put my head down. The school did offer, would you like to take a leave of absence and come back? But I said, that's not going to help anybody. I need to get to work.
Oh, Christina. Stay
I
the course. Stay the
I had to stay the course, absolutely, because that one degree, well, that probably would have been a huge trajectory direction change for me to have done that. So I needed to stay and finish what I had started with that program. So that was hard. My daughter and I shared one room, and she was 2, and tried to stay steady. But because I knew my goals and I knew that I was also then going through the spiritual transformation, I even took extra classes in religious studies to
Mhm.
make sure that I was dug in deep and didn't let anything distract me. So when I did get I graduated from radiologic technology school. I didn't know until graduation that I had also earned another associate degree. So I ended up with 3 associate degrees. And then I got to work. I applied for a job and got a job right away. And the powers that be allowed me to take my daughter 5 hours away to this place where it was going to start us off.
Mhm.
So I ended up getting a really good job and continued my education. I said, well, no stopping now, because all my life I didn't think I was ever good enough. I was never good enough, and I needed to prove to myself that I was good enough. And I know so many other people who are in that boat, like, because we're just never told you are perfect the way you are, but we never feel good enough.
Mhm.
So I dug in and I went to work and I continued and ended up getting a bachelor's in radiation science, and then a bachelor's in religious studies, and then my master's in religious studies, and then my master's in radiation science. But I was coming around the corner to work at work one day, and turned to go into my office, and I stopped short, and I looked at my chair, and I said, "I'm really proud of the woman that sits there. She has worked so hard and been through hell, been through really, really been through hell with these situations, and I'm really proud of her." And I knew at that moment I was good enough.
Mm.
I knew it. So I
Mhm.
always tell people, if you are ever concerned, just look at yourself as if you are looking through somebody else's eyes, and then tell me what what they would say. Would they
Mhm.
say? What would your best friend say to you?
Yep.
Because your best friend, and my best friend says this to me all the time, don't say mean things about my best friend.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you've got to look at yourself through somebody else's eyes every once in a while.
How long ago was it that you
Oh,
came in the office and looked at that chair?
oh, that was probably 12 years ago. 12 years ago. Yeah. And then right after that, I finished my PhD in religious studies.
Mhm.
So yes, it was a long time ago, but I knew I was there. I was okay.
Mhm.
Gonna be okay. And I didn't need anybody. I
Yep.
didn't need anything. I could take care of myself. I could take care of my children. And and I tell my children, I said, this is vitally important, that whatever you do in life, find a way to be able to take care of and provide for yourself and your own needs and wants. Because at
Perfect.
that point, you are no longer vulnerable to somebody else.
Yeah.
You're not dependent.
Mhm.
You can then choose the partner you want to be with, not be dependent and reliant on them.
Yep.
So,
So I talk about this all the
uh,
time, every day with my clients. Let's take a step back. Every day, self-talk.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I talk about this as like the number one non-negotiable every single day is to
Hmm.
love yourself first.
Yes.
And self-love and selfish are not the same thing.
No, be proud of yourself. And it's okay to be
Uh,
proud of yourself and your accomplishments and what you've done in life and who you're loving and serving and your
Absolutely.
kindness and everything
And,
about you.
when we love ourselves, we let the world love us. When we love ourselves, we let life love us.
Exactly.
That's part of
Exactly.
choosing life. I choose to be alive.
Exactly. Yes. And I literally had to make that choice almost daily for the longest time, just because it was hard. It's
Mhm.
not easy when you're going through that.
Yeah.
But getting past that and breathing and saying, I'm okay. I'm good. That
Mhm.
that feels
Yeah.
good. And
So,
getting that first paycheck.
right. So I want to thank you for sharing a little of your story of your journey to where we are now.
Yes.
And a couple of things, as I think about maybe those people out there listening to us,
Hmm.
and I think about how many people I've helped in my practice,
Hmm.
and as well as my study of the human condition, because what I know is that everybody's pain hurts.
Yes.
Everybody's attraction is mind blowing.
Yes.
It's like our emotions are the language that everybody speaks.
Hmm.
It's the language we all share. And I think as spiritual or spirits coming to have a human experience.
Yes.
I think part of that journey, the contract that we sign when we do that, is that we come here to forget so that we can be on the journey to remember.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
And I love saying that out loud because, you know, when we're stuck and scared, and like fear can be crippling, uncertainty and doubt. I talk about that a lot, especially on this podcast.
Yeah.
That trio of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and I love to redefine them as essential tools to progress.
Mhm. Yeah.
For uncertainty and doubt, are the obstacle is the path. I like
Yes,
coaching things, these coaching phrases. These are the things we want you to focus on.
exactly. Yes.
However, but looking back, there was something about your story, and I noticed it the first time we talked, and I'm noticing it again today, and I see it in my own self, and I see it in the world, is that when spirit knocks on the door with a hard lesson, right, and we don't get it, and then spirit knocks again with the second round of that same hard lesson
Yes, we're gonna get it again.
with the volume turned up,
Exactly. Yes.
and how when that's happening, it is so easy to feel like I'm a failure, I suck,
Mhm.
you
Yes.
know. And
Yes.
so, and I know that, like with your two husbands and a couple other things in your story, there was a repeat a couple of times. And let's remember that every joke, the best told joke in the world is a 1-2 punch. Punchline.
Right? Exactly.
Magic of three,
Yes.
those
Yes.
kinds of things.
I do have a third husband now, and he is much kinder and nicer and everything else. So
No.
there,
So
there
good.
is joy along at the end.
Yeah. And so like I just wanted to like shout out there a little bit. Like
Yes.
if there's a wounding or a hurt or a pain that's repeating in your world,
Yes.
that's probably your spirit knocking on the door saying it's time to have a bigger look at that.
Exactly. Exactly. And I will say that I didn't get married right away. I took 8 years to really be me. And that's why I don't use a married last name. That is my name at birth, minus my maiden name or any other man's name. That's me.
Yeah.
And it's because I needed to be me and I
Hmm.
needed to know who I was and be on my own and strong and an individual before I could allow somebody else in my life again.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was 8 years. And now he and I have been together for 9, but we've known each other since I was 14. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we met when I was a freshman in high school. He was a senior. So yeah,
Oh,
we've
and
known.
here you are all these years later together. What a beautiful
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
I have another question.
Okay.
Because like every good mom, you were talking about your kids.
Yeah,
You've mentioned them several times, and of course, the journey of your kids watching you struggle.
yes,
I was raised by a mom, single mom, struggling.
yes.
One of the things that she says all the time is that we raised her.
Oh, I could see that. Absolutely.
We all grew up together.
Yes. Well, I was so
And she came
young
from a
too.
pretty rough
Yeah.
background, childhood, pretty rough, and so when she found the Mormons with my
Mhm.
dad,
Yeah.
she was kind of homeless on the streets and struggling in Kansas City with
Right.
with alcoholic parents, and then she got pregnant with my dad when she was in high school.
Okay. Yeah.
Right on to my grandparents who said, all right, you guys are getting married. And the women of that church brought my mom in and taught her how to cook and how to do laundry and how to sew and how to raise babies and how to have community.
Yeah.
And my mom loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it.
Yeah.
But then, of course, she outgrew it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
As
But
did I.
right, yeah,
Yes.
so like I mean, I never resonated because I'm gay, right? So I never felt like I had a chair at the table. But I will always say about the Mormon Church is they have the corner on community,
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
and they
Yes.
do
And
they
they do a lot of wonderful charitable works
they
and
really do.
I mean humanitarian
Salt Lake
efforts.
City is a magical city to live in. It's clean, it's safe, it's pretty, it's cheap. The quality of life is higher there than most places in the world. I
Exactly.
never thought as a gay man I'd still have a house in Salt Lake City all these years
Right?
later. However, every
Yes,
religion has its conundrums,
yes, it is.
whatever. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
I
in
needed
that
a little
vein,
more autonomy and I did not resonate, that's the right word, sorry, with the male role model, the male
exactly.
Godhead figure,
Well,
because of
exactly.
not having good male role models in my life. It
Hmm.
didn't make sense to me anymore.
Yeah.
So I needed to have a female role model. I needed to have the strong feminine that
Mhm.
I could live up to and emulate. And
Right.
that I needed the autonomy to make that choice too.
I needed those same things.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a gay boy growing up in Salt Lake City in the 70s,
Yeah.
there was no place for me at the table.
Exactly.
And there was no good examples of a good, happy story anywhere.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
often say I never came out of the closet because I never went in. Thank goodness. Spirit,
Exactly.
source or whatever just let me know, that I figured out that if you're teaching unconditional love,
Yeah.
on the surface, that's a great idea.
Right.
Look closer and you don't see a place for you at their table, that it becomes clear that they're teaching conditions with their love and that it's conditional love.
Absolutely.
Does
Absolutely.
not have a place
I
at the
hear
table.
you there. Yeah. And I know I shared with you that the reason I did leave was because of having homosexual cousins who were absolutely happily with their partners for 10, 20 years, a committed
What an
relationship.
awesome example of two people committed to each other.
Exactly. But
Right.
their relationship wasn't as holy and sanctified as mine with the atrocities that happened in them. Doesn't resonate with me.
Uh,
That
yeah.
doesn't,
Anyway, that's a that's a topic for a whole nother
other
episode right
topic,
there.
yes. So we won't go there.
Because one of the things that I want to come back to that I started to ask people who go down that for a minute is I remember being my mom's kid.
Yeah,
And I remember watching her try and get a job as a waitress and put us first.
yeah.
I look back to my childhood and she apologizes to us all the time for never having enough. But I think back and I think, okay, Star Wars movies were fresh out and all the Star Wars characters and toys were coming out. I had them all.
Oh, no, that's cool.
And boy, do I wish now I still did.
Right? Right, right,
No, but I think about how my mom is so worried that she couldn't give us what she wanted.
right.
She was aware that in her own education and comparing herself to other people around what she didn't have and she was aware of what she couldn't give us,
Exactly.
but I was growing up with her. I felt like I had it all. I was safe as a gay boy. I knew it was okay, even though
Yeah,
I didn't have that conversation with her until a long time later.
right. But you
But
feel safe being you.
right, but I heard you mention your kids a couple of times, and
Yeah,
part of the story of that is like, okay, I'm single mom with 5 kids. I'm doing a thing, and I'm putting them first, and I'm
yeah.
winging it. I have no clue. I don't have any good role
No
models.
clue.
You know,
No clue. No clue. But and they watched me go to school and they watched me put in that effort and to set that example for them. And that was one of the reasons why I knew I had to finish what I started was I needed to make them proud of me and I needed to be something to be able to support and provide for them. I needed that, and, so I did do the best I possibly could, and they've all come back around, and they do love me, and they tell me that they're proud of me, so and I hope that I've set that example, and then to provide the safe relationship, the safe place for them to be themselves, they have all come to me with private matters that I've always held space for them to be themselves because it's so vitally important that not only they have that space to be themselves, but they have a parent who could then guide them through that, which I didn't. I didn't have a parent who knew. I remember asking my mom about stuff, and she's like, "Oh, you're too young to know about that yet." And I'm like, now I think back and I'm like, obviously I wasn't, or I wouldn't have been asking, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but that she was young, and I have to give her grace for that too. She was a young mom and didn't know either. So, but yeah, I was 22 and I had my first child, and so I was young, and I grew up with these kids, learning how to be a mom and how to be an adult. Because you're not, I mean, you're just a young adult when you're 18, and then you're not
really.
really an adult until later when you're really doing all the adulting stuff. But
My
uh,
grandfather, who I was so close with as a kid, he always said, "You don't have a lick of sense until you're 40."
I think that's true.
I do. I
I
do too.
like your grandpa now.
And then I added later, and you only get a lick.
Right, right. That's about all you get, right? Just one little taste of it. I
Oh
agree.
my goodness. Oh my
I
goodness.
agree. Yeah.
Well, tell me this, as we begin to wrap up our little time together today, Christina. Who do you serve?
Oh my gosh, I serve my students because they are like my children to me, in
Mhm.
that I watch them come in and start something that they're completely out of the water about. They have no idea what they're doing. And I watch them. Yesterday, we had a group that's getting ready. They're doing mock interviews, and to see them dressed in their business casual, ready to go out for their interviews. And I'm like, they're gonna fly my nest. And then we have a group in the room that's now day two. And I'm like, the babies are here. So it's just so joyful. So I do serve them with all my heart. But I also, because of my own health journey, we didn't even talk about that, but I ended up with some horrible health problems that I didn't expect to be alive this time this year.
Mhm.
And it was absolutely necessary that I got my health under control. And so I used a program that has worked wonders, and I've lost 75 pounds, put my, I know, right? Put my autoimmune disease into remission, decreased pain in my body, and now I have a vibrant life, and I have hope, and I have plans, not
Yes.
just getting my affairs in order.
I want to talk about that for a hot second
Okay, yeah, yeah.
because you'd mentioned that to me a couple of weeks ago, and I'd forgotten that part of your story because when we
Yeah,
talked a couple days ago, we didn't that didn't come up.
right, right.
How
So,
long? How long were you that heavy?
Um, it's been kind of back and forth, but
Uh,
with especially with women, but I can't really speak as much for men, but I know for emotionally with women, we put on weight as a protection, as a wall to keep our bodies safe. Because if we are heavy, we are not going to be looked at from a predator. So I can't speak for men, but I know that I've met many women who felt the same way. So I had gained weight during my pregnancies and didn't ever lose it, but I also didn't have that self-control of what I say. It's like a child when, and now this child is like, oh, I can eat whatever I want to, and there's nobody to tell me no. And at some point in our lives, we have to say, okay, child brain, this is the grown up now. You need to eat your vegetables. Which I love vegetables,
mhm.
but I had lost some weight, and then I gained it back after having a back injury. And because of the back injury and changing jobs, I had gotten COVID. It sparked my autoimmune, which I didn't even realize I had. Now it all falls into place. Hindsight's 2020. But I had horrible inflammation in my body. I couldn't get it under control. So I was trying everything, but I was only slowly increasing weight. And I'm like, this is not good. I'm over 200 pounds and I'm in pain. I'm using a walker and a cane,
Mm.
and I'm so unhealthy. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if I knew I had like high cholesterol, all sorts of issues going on. And I'm like, I have got to do something. So I talked to my doctor, and she said, you need to talk to this lady. She's a health coach. And so I talked to her, and I got on this program. And it took about 8, 9 months, and I was able to get that weight down and lost 75 pounds. I went from a size 18 to a size 4. I can even wear size 2 shorts,
Awesome.
which is amazing.
Oh.
So,
Well,
and the
yeah.
pain and the autoimmune is diminished. It's never going to go away, but there's a few things that still spark it every once in a while. Like I got sick last week, and so now it's like a little bit flared, but it'll settle down again. It's manageable now. So, and like I said, I have goals and dreams. My husband and I are just put
Mhm.
a down payment on a cruise for next year.
Oh my
So
gosh, so great.
we're just, and I got rid of the walker. I got rid of the cane. I don't have to use
Yeah,
this
yeah,
part.
yeah. Well,
It's
the reason I wanted to ask about that,
uh-huh.
because what I know to be true and what I've seen in my own life, because I have a similar journey where I remember the day they sent me out of the doctor's office pulling an oxygen tank and I was at death's door. You know,
Oh,
I have the same story.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
not there now.
No, no,
But
thank goodness.
but the reason I wanted to talk about that and call it in because so much of your story, when we heal the
Mhm.
first wound,
Yes.
they all begin to heal.
That's so true. It's like getting that initial splinter or damage out so that the infection
Yeah,
can come out and then it can
yeah.
start to heal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Often we get wounded one at a time and we stack them up for decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
when we
I,
choose to heal, they all begin to heal at the same time,
so true.
and that's overwhelming all by itself
It
because
is because as you heal one, then the other one comes to the surface and you have to deal with that issue too. So you
yeah,
have to be ready. And that's why I think it's vital to have a coach because if you don't have a coach you can talk to, then you end up eating those hurts again and burying them again with
right.
fries or
When
cokes
we, when
or
we cannot see our own blind spots,
exactly,
and a
exactly.
coach, like, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm a coach. I know that you are doing some coaching and healing in your practice with your spiritual
Yes,
background, your medical knowledge. There's a difference between friendship and coaching.
absolutely. Because the
You know,
coach is going to be like,
you want
okay,
me to be your friend or do you want me to help you?
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
And I was with another mentor last week and he started using some words that I think I'm going to use right now. Sometimes when we pull out the silver mirror for each other, that's the sugar coated, oh, it all's going to be okay. You're fine. Take a deep breath. It's going to be beautiful.
right.
But when we pull out the black mirror, it's like, oh, you got a bunch of shit in your trunk. Let's pull it out.
Exactly. Let's get that out. Let's
And
talk about it.
if you don't pull it out,
Hmm.
look what's happening now.
Yeah, it's only going to become more necrotic. Exactly.
Exactly. And that's what I love about the work that we do here.
Hmm.
Just like before we started, I just said, hey, Christina, before we push record, let's just pause and take a breath and just step out of the busy world of where we came from, the over sensationalized everything of what it is to be alive on the world today.
Exactly.
And let's
Exactly.
think about who's listening to us right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know that we're speaking to their hearts. Let's know that we're going to reach inside them. And just like that Lisa Nichols quote, I'm going to climb out of my story, stand on top of my story, put my hand out for the next one who's ready.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because
My arms are open. I'm ready.
yeah,
Come on
totally,
in. I'm
totally. Me
here for you.
too. Well, if people out there in the audience, friends, family, tender-hearted warriors out there, if you're resonating and connecting with Christina, or maybe what I'm doing here today, there's going to be some links here for you to find us. But Christina, tell us, how do people find you if they want to find you?
Oh, I'm really active on Facebook, not as much on Instagram, but it's Facebook/RadTech Christina, RADTEC Christina.
Awesome.
That's me. And I do have, and I'll share that with Cory, but I have a jot form. So if you're interested in a free health assessment, you can just fill out that form, come straight to my email, and we'll set up an appointment and chat, and we'll see if I can help you. Yeah.
Awesome. And same thing with me, everybody. If you're liking what I'm doing every single week, I do a free group on Wednesdays. The link will be here. I do a free super conscious recode where we speak to the unconscious mind consciously and send in a new set of instructions. And that's my art. And that's what I do.
I love that.
Christina, thank you for giving me a moment of your time today. Thank you for bringing your tender warrior heart up front for all to see, because sometimes it takes some bravery to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
vulnerability to be brave.
It does. It does. I know, but it's important. We have to do that just to uplift and help others. So, yeah.
And I will say one thing is we don't have to do anything, but we certainly get to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I agree with you. Yeah, I choose to.
Well, Christina, thank you. Thank you for some time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your journey.
Thank you.
And hopefully we're going to be, let's jump back into the creation station and see what we can do next time.
Sounds awesome. I love it. Thank you so much.
All right, my dear. I'll see you there. I'll see you in the circles. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.